First and foremost, we praise and thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for this auspicious occasion that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has granted us. And we send abundant salutation and salawat upon Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam as we unite under the banner of La ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulullah. First and foremost, I would like to welcome each and everyone and feel at home. Anything you deny, you can contact me, inshallah. We'll make everything available for everyone, inshallah. Singapore is myself, inshallah. So, for this story, as we read in the Quran, because Singapore Muslim, you keep the same time, see Buddha, in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Uttana Ibu Siso, Zara Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Naleko, Ezizu Kalamaji, Ibu Sisere, Uyipo, Ezra Kami, inshallah, Yankelele, everything Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, inshallah. So, لو في السماء إن شاء الله وتصبح لنا القرآن إن شاء الله فليتفضل.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. وما كان المؤمنون لينفروا كافة فلولا نفر من كل فرقة منهم طائفة ليتفقهوا في الدين ولينذروا قومهم إذا رجعوا إليهم لعلهم يحذرون. يا أيها الذين آمنوا قاتلوا الذين يلونكم من الكفار وليجدوا فيكم غلظة واعلموا أن الله مع المتقين. وإذا ما أنزلت سورة فمنهم من يقول أيكم زادته هذه إيمانا فأما الذين آمنوا فزادتهم إيمانا وهم يستبشرون. وأما الذين في قلوبهم مرض فزادتهم رجسا إلى رجسهم وماتوا وهم كافرون. أولا يرون أنهم يفتنون في كل عام مرة أو مرتين ثم لا يتوبون ولا هم يذكرون. وإذا ما أنزلت سورة نظر بعضهم إلى بعض هل يراكم من أحد ثم
Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept your qira and take you from strength to strength, inshallah. And whenever I call you to read, inshallah, you must be always be ready, inshallah. Jazakallah. So another recitation, inshallah. Moving forward, inshallah, we'll try to organize cards, inshallah. We'll ask Warun Dawud, inshallah, to give a brief background, inshallah, to Fatwa, inshallah. Where did it start and inshallah. Jazakallah.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I won't take long time. My purpose is to speak about the background, what has led to us today having this fatwa about Lobola Mahadi. And I'd like to believe most of us sitting here have encountered this challenge at some point or the other when we wanted to get married. I went through this challenge also. And then it became a question as what do we do as Muslims when we have to pay Lobola? Is it something that is permissible? Is it something that is not permissible? I would like to give an example where you get married as a Muslim, but you have a family and you have a wife, but somebody calls you a boyfriend, or somebody calls your wife a girlfriend, because you haven't gone to the family to show yourself and to say, I want to take this woman as a wife. And this has been a process that has been happening, and I'm glad to see in my presence some of the brothers with whom we used to be part of the family program, that they are aware that we used to discuss this subject in great length, to say what do we do when you are confronted with the issue that you have to take out the bottle, and you don't know what is the Islamic perspective, and this is giving you problems. As we moved on, as we advise the couples, because some of the responsibility we have, or some of the tasks that we do, is to advise and work with couples, we find that it has serious implications. For example, as a brother, you do your nikah nicely. You don't go and you don't go and show at the lady's house. You don't make any such effort, then you pass away. What happens? There are severe consequences for that. And many of us have faced these type of consequences. Your wife gets sick and your family comes and they say, we don't know who you are. You are not man enough to come and talk to us. You just came and took our daughter. Who are you? There are many, many implications from our culture that for a man who is not respectful enough or honorable enough to face the girl's family and say, I want to take your daughter as a wife. Because there was even talk at some point of why do we act as if Musali or you just come and take, simply because you're a Muslim. I'm just highlighting some of the problems. So this issue was constantly discussed in many different circles until in 2019 when we were requested to make a presentation at the SABMC. And in our presentation, among the many issues that we raised there pertaining to marriage and to couples, we raised the issue that it is very, very, very important for our ulama to come together and discuss this question, to give Muslims guidance, because it is very unfortunate and sad that we can have ulama amongst us, but we are lost, we don't know what to do with certain things. And the real purpose of ulama is to guide us, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, ask those people of knowledge. If you don't know, ask the people of knowledge. And the ulama are the people of knowledge, and they are there to assist us to resolve whatever problems we have. Now, we have different challenges as indigenous Muslims. They are not just limited to Lobola. And this is part of my cry that our ulama have to be at the center of the resolution of our problems. We have brothers who are going through things like Ubutwasa and things like that. They have been confused. They don't know what to do. Who is going to solve this problem? Our ulama are the ones to solve this problem. And therefore, at that SABMC conference, we had the impetus, the sort of like the spark, to go out and ask ulama, how do we go forward and solve this particular problem? It has been a journey, and alhamdulillah, I thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for blessing me to be in the company of ulama, to hear them discuss the issue, that it is not as simple as we think it is. It was a long journey, but our ulama took the time to come together, using their own resources, using their own time, to solve a problem that we as a community are facing. And this has resulted in an initiative or a platform called Native Fiqh, where we as a community, as a people, we can send our questions to the ulama and say, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 problem. What do I do? How do I go about solving it? So this is just a brief background to this issue and how it has come to be here. And now today we are sitting today in this masjid in Orlando for the ulama to tell us what is the outcome of those decisions. What do you do now? If you're a young man sitting right here now, you want to get married, and this is the question you are faced with, you're going to come out of here having a solution as what you must do, where you can go. And please, I'd like to ask our people across that we need to give our ulama the space and the prominence that they deserve. We can't go anywhere without giving the ulama the center and the responsibilities that they have to solve our problems, inshallah. I think this is where I will end it. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless all the ulama who supported this initiative, all the brothers and sisters who supported the ulama in the process of making sure we get to this initiative. It has indeed been a great blessing on my side to have been in the company of these great ulama. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala take them from strength to strength, and may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless our people to really recognize the value and the importance of ulama in our midst and give them the support they need in the path towards solving our problems, inshallah.
Inshallah, we'll move forward, inshallah, with the Islam Shaykh, inshallah. We'll ask Sidiq. Okay, we'll ask Sidiq, inshallah, to take from you, inshallah. Jazakumullah khair.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين أفضل الصلاة وأتم التسليم على سيدنا وحبيبنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. First of all, I would like to, in South Africa, we just say all protocols observed and everyone must just fall into place. But I would like to firstly honor the presence of the ulama that have graced us. And secondly, without any reservations, we have to acknowledge the Amir of the Gauteng Muslim Shura Council. We really appreciate your presence together with the office bearers of the Gauteng Muslim Conference. And we will further like to thank our elders for gracing us with their presence. We need our barakah, and the barakah flows through the elders, and we really appreciate your presence. And we will also like to welcome everyone else in their respective maqamat, in their respective darajat. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make you all feel at home. We are really honored to have you with us today. My duty is very simple. My duty is to explain what a fatwa is. And those that know me know that I do get too technical, but I will avoid that today. I will make it a very brief and short story. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sends Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam to guide the rest of mankind. And he stays and he guides, and during his daily life, questions are posed to him. And some questions, he defers them directly to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala answers some of these questions in a form of verses from the Quran. يَسْأَلُونَكَ عَنْ يَسْأَلُوكَ عَنْ. They ask you about this, they ask you about this, tell them this, tell them that. Tell them this, tell them that. So we are getting, in the time of the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, we are getting direct response from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And those are rulings, those are cut clear. It's either halal or haram. It's either blue or white, nothing in between. It's either you go left or you go right. Allah has spoken. Those are the rules that are divinely sent down. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam spends his entire Mubarak life in this realm with us, with all these questions being answered to a point where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has fulfilled his revelation by making sure that each and every single thing that will guide mankind from now until the last day when we meet Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with gloomy faces, inshallah, all those basic questions are answered. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam is called upon to the rahmah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the blessed Rawdah where he is buried. The people that used to spend time in the company of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam take it upon themselves to guide the community further if there are any matters arising that might have come up in the absence of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. The Sahabas radiallahu anhum, they take upon this role. They do their best. Now you must understand that they're not receiving wahi. The wahi is cut. However, they still have the guidance and the templates and the principles by which Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam would have entertained a particular situation. So they have at their disposal the Quran, and they have at their disposal the Sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. The people that come after them, which are the tabi'een, they are also confronted with challenges which the previous generation was not confronted with such challenges. They do their best to look at what the Quran says about that particular matter. They look at what the Sunnah says about that particular matter. And they have a third element now, which is the consensus of the Sahaba. They look at what the Sahabas would have entertained that particular. It's a long story, however, it goes on to the point where we have a lot of imams, because they're learning from they learn the tabi'in, learn from the Sahabas learn from Rasulullah, the tabi'in learn from the tabi'in. This is generational thing. However, there comes a point where Islam grows far and wide. It's not restricted to Makkah and Medina. It's not restricted to people that know each other very well, that eat the same food, that dress the same clothes. It goes as far as the east and it goes as far as the west. The questions there become very intricate now, because when you go to FM now, they want to know if Masonja is something that they can indulge in, or there's dabh of any sort that needs to happen. Do they have to dress in a particular color, for example? Do they have to eat some specific food? And all these questions pile up, and it becomes the duty of those that learn from people who learn from people who learn from people who learn from people who learn from the tabi'in, who learn from the Sahabas, who learn from Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, who learn from Jibreel, who learn from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So these questions, when they creep up in every society, they need men who are able to look into the new challenges. These are the fatwas that come up, the situations that call for, when you look into the Quran, you do not have a direct response as to whether that thing is permissible or it's not permissible. Or when you look into the Sunnah, you do not find anything that says whether it's permissible or impermissible. It becomes now the duty of the people that know the people of the land to take it upon themselves to entertain and and guide the people towards the way of Allah or towards what is best to be done in that situation. This is how fatwa, which is the plural of a fatwa, come up. Fatwa is not a matter of halal and haram. A matter of halal and haram is preserved for Allah and His Rasul. A fatwa is a human endeavor or attempt to get at the best act that a Muslim should do in a particular situation. So we are not here to make what's halal haram. We did not journey all these years, months, and meeting here and meeting there to make what's halal haram, what's haram halal. That will remain. That is the affair of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and His Rasul. Ours is to say we are confronted, we living in South Africa, knowing the circumstances, knowing what may happen and what may not happen if 1, 2, 3 things are not done or done. We think the best thing to do is to do 1, 2, 3. So it is not binding. There is no fatwa that is binding on anyone. What is binding is that which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has proclaimed, that which Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam has proclaimed. The ijma of the Sahaba is binding to a high extent, depending of course on which school and whatnot, but these are the primary things. Us coming together and journeying all these months and all these years was not to come and bind anyone on anything, but it is to merely guide our community towards that which we feel would be the best way to do certain things, to avoid certain things that we also look into. Today we will not, inshallah, our Sheikh Milanzi will not dwell much into how we arrived at the points that we arrived at. However, the document will be available for everyone to understand how the ulama, mostly sitting here in front, and some of them are not here, and some of them, because of humility, they want to stay and sit at the back. However, some of the ones that the most prominent that took active role in us crafting and looking at this concern sitting in the front, but it is not just the people sitting in the front. We have some sitting in the crowd, and we have some, maybe, if I'm not mistaken, who couldn't make it and join us today. The likes of Mulana Huyo, who I don't see here, and other ulama. And we really are blessed to have a dedicated team of ulama who took time and energy away from their families for years. Since 2019, we've been meeting almost every 2-3 months until today. Yes, there was interruptions with COVID, but I think we also sorted all with some online meetings. We are really blessed to have people that have went out and studied the deen, and they are coming back and making sure that the deen is translated in a way that the people understand. That is what happened to people in Yemen. When they came, the Uwais al-Qarni, when they got to Makkah and they learned from the great Sahabas, they did not copy and paste in Yemen. However, they took whatever they learned and made sure that it applies and it gels smoothly in the people of Yemen. And this is what happened to the people of, whether it's China, whether it's the Far West, or anywhere else. So basically, my simple point was to highlight that we are not here, we did not meet for the past 3 years to make what's halal haram or what's haram halal. That is not our department, that is the department of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So with those few words, I would like to say, do not take your ulama for granted. The reason why other communities are prosperous in how they function as communities is because their ulama are taken serious. You might just think it's another man who went to Darul Ulum and then this is the man that has interacted with the Book of Allah every day and every morning and every evening, and you think, for some reason, you think, you and him are equal. It's impossible. This is the Book of Allah. This is the man who was interacting with the Sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam day in and day out, and you think your opinion is on the same level. It's impossible. So you must, these are some of the ulama, by the way. These are not all the ulama. I'm sure in your respective communities, you have your imams that you need to respect. You have your mu'allims that you need to respect. You have your teachers, those who are teaching the kids in the madrasa. This is not a easy road. It's part of nubuwah. It's inheritance in a sense from inheriting from the nur of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So my point was just to highlight that a fatwa is not binding. No matter who said it, it doesn't matter who said it. A fatwa is an attempt. It's a human endeavor of people like ourselves who can make mistakes and say, and we will not be too shy to come back and make a saying. If other evidences are presented that we were not privy to, we will not be too shy to come back and set up, just as we have set up, and say we are making rujuk. We think we were wrong in 1, we think we were wrong in 2, but we were still right in 3 and 4 and 5. With those few words, I'd like to say shukran, and we will carry on with the program.
Jazakumullah. Without wasting any time, inshallah, we'll proceed with the announcement and reading of the fatwa by the Ameen and the theological director of the Native Fiqh, inshallah, our Muslim, officially, will be trying to follow, inshallah, and he'll be the one who is going to do the announcement of the fatwa, inshallah. Jazakumullah.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين. الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين. إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين. اهدنا الصراط المستقيم. صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد الفاتح لما أغلق والخاتم لما سبق الناصر الحق بالحق والهادي إلى صراطك المستقيم وعلى آله حق قدره ومقداره العظيم. ورضي الله تعالى عن أصحاب رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم ولا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم. الحمد لله الذي القائل لا ينهاكم الله عن الذين لم يقاتلوكم في الدين ولم يخرجوكم من دياركم أن تبروهم وتقسطوا إليهم إن الله يحب المقسطين. والسلام والصلاة على سيد الكونين القائل الخلق كلهم عيال الله وأحب خلقه إليه أنفعهم بعياله. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله تعالى وبركاته. Alhamdulillah, we praise and thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala after giving our thanks to the program director to give us the opportunity to be about the fatwa which my colleague Sheikh Abdul Qadir has just spoken about. I will try and be short. I know that the announcement of the fatwa, sometimes a hype is created, and you find that the word fatwa becomes an everyday use. I remember when 911 took place, and some of my friends they used to ask me every day, they said, oh, so now the Muslims are being attacked, so are you guys going to be issuing a fatwa? Fatwa has always been associated with a CNMP in Matawata. So it's a very serious statement. Yes, indeed, it is a very serious statement in a sense that a fatwa is more like a khalifa. A khalifa is someone who represents something, like my colleague has spoken, that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, because now he's not among us, so someone has to issue statement on his behalf with the inheritance that they have received through the chains of narrations and the sanad that connects them with Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So fatwa, basically, we use it every day. When we make wudu, when we make our salah, every madhab, any person follows on earth, each and every single part and parcel of every act that is defined in any madhab is referred to as a fatwa. Because the ulama and the great imams that my colleague has just spoken about in the past spent time, days and nights, extracting these rulings until it was arrived that to make wudu you must wash 4 parts of your what you call it, parts of your body. And each one is a fatwa. Anyway, I don't want to dwell into much, as it was already spoken about. But I just want to highlight the fact that every Muslim's life is governed by fatwa from the time you wake up in the morning until you go to sleep. If you associate yourself with the kalima la ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulullah, then everything that you do in your life is governed. فَبِقَلْبِهِ وَذَلِكَ أَضْعَفُ الْإِيمَانِ. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said, if anyone among you see munkaran is something that when you look at you will deny, you don't want to see something that is not worthy of it being seen because it is so despicable. Right? Anything that is munkaran is a vice or evil. The Prophet ﷺ said, if you see it from among you, so he's talking, he says, minkum, from among you. He said, let him change it with his hand. If you cannot do it, or if you are unable, then let him change it with his tongue. If you are unable to do it, then let him change it with his heart. And that is the weakest of Iman. When you look into this hadith and its analysis, and the wording of Rasulullah when he said, minkum, in other words, this is not something that is done by everybody. From among you. The ulama have explained the meaning of this hadith and its application. It's a very well-known hadith. It's not a matter of when you read the hadith and then you say, okay, now because I know this hadith, when you see someone doing something, then you shine and palm. Then you say, why are you doing that? That is not how the hadith is to be understood. Some of the explanation that the ulama have even and went into great lengths into explaining this hadith is that the reference to let him change it with his hand, it refers to the people of authority, the sultan, people that are in positions of governing the countries and the states. Because they are in a position to change that which needs to be changed. And when you see it, but you don't have this, you are not in a position of authority or in some government position that is governing the country. The Prophet ﷺ speak about, he said, then use the tongue. The tongue here, it means the ulama, the scholars, because the scholars are equipped to understand evil and goodness in society. If the ulama see evil and then they don't speak about it, the people in the positions, they can't do anything because no one is informing them that things need to change. And if you are unable to use your tongue, in other words, not in that category of those who are equipped to be able to address this munkar and this evil, then that refers to the common citizens. And hence Rasulullah said, anyway, let me not dwell too much into the explanation of the hadith, but these are the people that maybe will go to an alim or to the local imam to say, hey, you know what, I'm seeing a problem here. Sayyidina Ali used to say, part of the problem that the Ummah faces is because everybody speaks that does not have the right to speak. Because they don't have the tools of speaking or making certain statements, but they go on and speak. But because they don't have that right, and so mistakes are made. That's why the common citizens, normally they will go to an imam or a local imam to say, hey, I have a problem, or I am seeing this and I am seeing that. And the imam will go to the mimbar, and then he will address it for the community. Because he has power to do it with his tongue. The Prophet said, فَإِلَّمْ يَسْتَطِعْ بِيَدِهِ فَبِلِسَانِهِ, with his tongue. That's the role of an alim. And as soon as the ulama in our communities, they start speaking up against the vices and educate the masses and educate the people in the positions of power, the government, the sultan, anybody who has power, who can send a military, who can send a police force to go and enforce that wrong and remove it. It's not a physical hand that is spoken of here. It's a power, like Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, تَبَّتْ يَدَا أَبِي لَهَبٍ وَتَبٍّ. Cursed is the hand of Abu Lahab. Hand is in reference to power. And the power that he had. In any case, I don't want to deviate too much, as I've indicated. I don't want to talk about all the nuances of this hadith, but this hadith is pregnant with a lot of meanings. And like Rasulullah says, "Utitu jawami al-kilam," I was given the most comprehensive speech. One statement of Rasulullah, you can spend a whole day and night speaking about it, and it will be understood in different levels by different people depending on where they are. And that is part of him being the prophet of the last age, because there is no prophet after him. And so the people who transmit this sacred knowledge from him, then they assume this responsibility. And hence my colleague here, Sheikh Abdul Qadir, is speaking about the necessary respect that needs to be accorded and given to these what you call individuals. But in any case, the ulama met and discussed the matter of Lobola, and the document will be circulated for further reading and for the guidance, and will give an indication. Generally, when a fatwa is given, the usul and the principles and the guiding principles that are used are not necessarily included. But the ulama felt that they will be included just for the benefit of whoever will reach the document, because the Muslims in the country, they are many, and the ulama that said yes, in as much as they were many, but they are only so much. So they will be able to make make a reference to them and understand where it came from. So the fatwa conclusion that was arrived at, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, is as follows. The fatwa issued by the signatories of this document and the signatories listed below is as follows. And the tawfiq, meaning divine help, is with Allah, who guides with His grace to His straight path. The first point that was issued is that paying Lobola mahari is permissible for those whose families have made it a condition to consider a bride or groom as a legal spouse. While we cannot make farad or compulsory that which Allah has not mandated, this fatwa strongly encourages the payment of lobola or mahari if demanded to foster family ties. The second point is that though interrelated, the Islamic nikah and the lobola or mahari should be treated as two separate processes. And you would understand and you would appreciate that based on the backgrounds that we're coming from, because every single nation or tradition, there are certain systems which they follow that translate into what is known among them. If you do 1, 2, 3, X, Y, Z, then it will be deemed that you have done it. But if you have not done X, Y, Z, then it won't be considered complete. So, and for this reason, the ulama, one of the first considerations that was discussed was that the nikah as a contract in Sharia will be treated as separate from the process of the lobola and mahari. However, the two processes are interrelated. In a sense that being an African and also being somebody who is in the path of Islam, who is a Muslim, when I want to marry, there are certain processes that I follow as a Muslim, but also being an African means that there are certain processes that you should follow in order for your being African requires and demands you of. And because of that, there are certain implications, but some of those implications could not be joined, I would say, together for various reasons, which are highlighted in the document. Allah says in the Holy Quran, وَانْكِحُوهُنَّ بِإِذْنِ أَهْلِهِنَّ وَأَتُوهُنَّ أُجُورَهُنَّ. Marry them with permission from their people, and give them the ujurahun وَأَتُوهُنَّ أُجُورَهُنَّ. Give them the ujur is a way that you use a payment, but it means what gift or whatever it is that is required. But the key thing in this ayah of the Holy Quran, Allah says, بِإِذْنِ أَهْلِهِنَّ, with permission from their people. How do you seek permission from a people? You can't just go and take someone's daughter or hand in marriage without having sought permission from their people, because she belongs to a people. Although this ayah, technically speaking, the ulama have discussed it, refers to the people or the people of Ulaya who have got who are called awliya or the wali, or those that have been given the responsibility and guardianship to be the custodians of those whom needs to be given in marriage, because they are the rightful people who can authorize and give permission, and they can also revoke if necessary under certain circumstances, because they are the ones that have been given sort of an overseeing role that make sure that if I give you something, that look after this, you become a wali of that thing. If anything goes in the way of that which you are given, then it will be necessary that you take measures and steps so that that which you are given to oversee is taken care of. So that's basically what you call the meaning of that. Of course, in the African tradition, the ujura hunna is given to the family, but in Islam is given to the bride, right? And that's what makes the nikah binding. If a man marries without paying this to his wife, the nikah is not complete in Islam. So it is not complete because we have not fulfilled a condition which Allah has spoken about in this Quran. And give them what is due upon them. Right. Now the question that was discussed here was, now because this goes to the family, doesn't go to the bride, and hence the two processes are seen as separate. The next point is that the payment of lobola cannot be a condition that becomes a hindrance to the nikah process. While it is encouraged, however, what establishes an Islamic marriage will always be the requirements that the Sharia dictates. And this is part of the reason of the previous point I spoke about. So, because if you have not paid lobola, does it mean that your nikah is invalid? No. Because Allah did not specifically speak about lobola in that sense in the Holy Quran. For a nikah to be valid, there needs to be certain requirements that the Sharia has laid down, and hence the payment of lobola cannot be a condition that becomes a hindrance for the nikah to process. But due to the overarching circumstances that arose in the community in the past, and South Africa is not the only community that experienced this. Many countries have experienced this, and they've also done what, alhamdulillah, the ulama are doing now here in South Africa, to sit down and say, how do we bridge the gap between the two systems? And hence this fatwa encourages very strongly the payment of the lobola, right? Because we don't want to create enmities to Muslims and Islam. Every person that is a Muslim, your first and foremost responsibility is to see to it that your lifestyle does not invite situations where people will turn away from the guidance of Allah. And that's why Allah said in the Holy Quran, some people pray, لا تجعلنا فتنة للذين كفروا. Allah, do not make us a fitna for a people who are disbelievers. How can we be a fitna to a people who are disbelievers? Is to show a behavior that when the disbelieving people look at us and then they see us say, no, I don't want to be associated with these people. And that becomes a fitna for the disbelievers from getting guidance. It's a fitna because when they live this life without believing in Allah, they have lost completely permanently. Because you cannot come back in afterlife to come and rectify what you could have rectified while you were living in this life. So every Muslim must be responsible for how they conduct themselves. The next point was the lobola mahari is not a replacement for mahar, which is an Islamic dowry to the bride due to the issue of ownership, which I've highlighted. After paying lobola or mahari to the family, the mahar must still be given to the bride as stipulated in Sharia. Right? So we don't want shortcuts. We don't want to say, no, I take my lobola and therefore now I'm not going to give the mahar. Yes, it is. Unfortunately, this is where Allah placed us in this place and time. And yes, it is part of the test that Allah gives us to see how to respond to the deen. Allah has made nikah what you call, and has institutionalized the institution of nikah, so we have to get married. But there are obstacles sometimes where we find ourselves due to these unique circumstances where we say, now I'm told that I must give the lobola before I can engage into the nikah. Yes, it looks like it's an oppression of some sort, but also there is a precedence in Sharia with regards to this as well. So this is not even something that we can say is completely outside, quote unquote, is not something that is just. If you recall in Surah Al-Qasas, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala informs Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam about Musa alayhi salatu wa salam when he wished to get married. His father-in-law said, we must wait for me these 8 years. And if you are kind, add additional 2 years, and then I'll give you my daughter in marriage.
Get my sister.
So now there is a precedence about this. This is not something that is outside Sharia, and hence the ulama have considered seriously this point, and that's why they arrive at the conclusion that it is permissible to give the lobola before you start the nikah, or if it is required. Some ulama, when you look into the tafsir of this ayah where Allah discusses about the story of Musa alayhi salam, they will tell you that even though Musa alayhi salam worked for 8 years, some they say he actually completed the 10 years as the 2 years was requested by the father-in-law. He actually did go ahead and pay a separate mahar. Right? There are more than 17 narrations of the Imams discussing on this point. If you look at the tafsir of Imam al-Qurtubi, rahimahullah, he gives all of this information there. So the ulama have looked at all these points and considered them, hence we arrived at this decision in which it was arrived at. So this is not something that is completely outside Islam. And in Sharia, we are guided by certain principles that are used to derive law. And one of those principles is called Sharia man qablana. We look at the Sharia of those people that were before us. And the Sharia man qablana, the Sharia of those people who were before us, also the ulama divided into 3 categories. I'm not going to go into details because it's not the platform for that, but I'm just trying to show that all these matters were taken into account and consideration. The next point that was discussed was to foster family ties, the demand of Lobola Mahadi by a Muslim family is permissible if there is pressure from the extended family, but discouraged if there is no such pressure to alleviate the financial burden on the groom. So this is another point the ulama have looked at very seriously because it is understood, it's a reality, especially now with COVID. You know, I was dragged into I did a few Lobola negotiations for a few brothers. During the COVID, I was surprised that, in some families, they still demand amount that you could not even demand even before COVID. In order to try and make the financial, that's how it appeared anyway. But I'm not mentioning names, but it's a reality. It's not a second-hand story. No, this is something that I witnessed because I was involved in those proceedings. Yes. So, in any case, due to the financial pressure and to alleviate the burden from the groom, and besides that, you must think also when the bride and the groom are starting a new family, you don't want to put them in a position whereby it becomes difficult for them to start their lives. Because you still have to provide shelter, you still have to provide all the demands that of building a family requires you to do. I know some of the brothers would call this way. By the way, I'm Hanafi in the mother. I know my colleague is Maliki. But if you want to be Hanafi, I will give you the application form after this. In Hanafi madhab, when they look at the ability of a person to be able to marry, they don't look beyond 30 days. Are you able to look after the wife for the next 30 days? You must be able to pay, to have the money to pay the mahar, and you must be able to support the wife for 30 days. But many families now, they look, they say, how much money you have, and all these things, before they can hand over their daughters in marriage. And this has become a serious problem. And it created so much fitna in communities, right? And also, the understanding of that is you must be able to provide a shelter. The word that is used in the Hanafi books is called bait. And the word bait in Arabic doesn't mean a house like me and you know it, like a 4-room and 3-room house. Bait means one room. It means one room. If you read the seerah of the Prophet ﷺ, he was married to 9 wives. Did he have 9 5-bedroom homes to provide for each of them? What was the setup of his courtyard where all the 9 wives live? So all of these things, the Sharia, through the infinite wisdom of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, ruling that Allah has given, the issue of interest. The issue of interest is a big one. You might not see it at the time when you charge interest, but generations later you find the whole country is in poverty. Because that strain of interest that started 100 years ago, whenever, now everybody else is in a big problem because the wealth was moved from one segment of a people to another. I'm almost finishing. You just bear with me. Now, paying Lobola Mahali is not a condition that automatically validates a nikah contract. However, should the parties agree on including the requirement of paying Lobola, this condition must be fulfilled based on that agreement. This is very simple. If you have made an agreement with someone, fulfill that agreement. Allah says in the Holy Quran, fulfill your agreements that you make among yourselves. Right? And in another hadith, the Prophet said, Al-Muslimuna inda shurutihim. The Muslims, they are bounded by the conditions which they make among themselves. So fulfill what you call the conditions. A nikah cannot be parents or guardians due to the condition of Lobola or Mahali not being the initial agreement. However, it is obligatory for Muslims to respect their parents even when they are non-Muslims. You have a non-Muslim parent, but he wants you to do the Lobola. Just because he's a non-Muslim, you can't say, I'm not doing it on the basis that, well, what do you know about Islam? And then you don't respect the parents in that regard. They should strive by all means to reach a mutual agreement. Understand that Allah said in the Quran, وَعَبُدُ اللَّهَ وَلَا تُشْرِكُوا بِهِ شَيْئًا وَبِالْوَالِدَيْنِ إِحْسَانًا. Worship Allah, don't associate any partners to Him, and be nice to your parents. That includes Muslim and non-Muslim. And that principle is also very strong. Everyone that gets married, the ayah is reiterated as part of the khutbah. As part of the khutbah. And what is it? وَاتَّقُوا اللَّهَ الَّذِي تَسَاءَلُونَ بِهِ وَالْأَرْحَامَ. Fear Allah, the one who will question you concerning your blood ties. Allah did not say the one who will question you concerning your Muslim blood ties. He said your blood ties. That includes Muslims and non-Muslims. So we need to respect that. This fatwa is merely a general framework of dealing with Lobola or Mahali, and that is the monetary or in-kind payment to the family. Specific details of how different cultures and tribes practice Lobola are outside the scope of this fatwa. Such specifics should be dealt with on a case-by-case basis using the principles of Sharia. Right? Case-by-case basis, in other words, this is not like a fatwa that is given is specific, because you find that there are many different cultures where there are nuances where certain things are not practiced. But the ulama look at the general principles that are common across all cultures. In South Africa, there are 11 official languages that represent different cultures. Right? So each one will have their own way, and within the different groupings, you'll find that there are also even nuances that exist. And this is common. It's common among what you call human beings. It's part of being a human. In that case, then that specific case will be looked at when you go and consult with a specific alim who will then assist in the specific issue. then this fatwa does not sanction any haram activities practiced during Lobola processes. And that includes any act that directly or indirectly connects the Lobola process with the devotion to the ancestors as practiced by some cultures and families. Now this point was discussed and deliberated on thoroughly, as some people have got certain interpretations to say, no, with Lobola, no, or maybe, for the ancestors, or, to be able to bind the families. We know about those things. The practice of Lobola is just a practice that binds two families together. And there is nothing more than that. Yes, there are many issues that we discuss, and likewise, as Khalifa Brother Mutaum has mentioned, there are other issues that will be looked at with regards to Twasa and all of those things and the implications. When you enter into this deen of Islam, you enter, Allah says, enter into Islam completely, not one foot this side, the other foot the other side. You must be 100% committed to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in any way or form, or whatever means possible. So sometimes through the back door or through certain what appears to be loopholes, and I come back to this, Sayyidina Ali used to say, the reason there's problems in communities is because people who have no right to speak. Because they don't understand the matters fully. And then some people will find a way to bring certain elements and say, no, me, I'm an African, therefore I must do, hey, I'm also an African. But I know that I'm also a Muslim. I know I've got certain boundaries and limits. The Arabs in Makkah, they related the same way, they tried to do the same thing to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And they used to believe in Allah and Uzza, all these names of whoever they used to believe in. And some people, but they also believed in Allah. And then when they tried the trick, is to say that I'm also an Arab like you. And I've submitted fully to Allah, but I don't have to bow down. I know the difference between culture and isigo, or the ways of doing things. So hence this point was deliberated upon. And inshallah, when Allah give us long life and the tawfiq, we will gather again to look into this point. The last point I want to mention on this is that this fatwa should occasionally be revisited and updated as circumstances on the ground concerning the practice of Lobola and Mahadi change and evolve. And that's basically what my colleague has spoken about here, Sheikh Abdul Qadir, where he says that we could have made mistakes. If you read the history of the fatwa issuing in the history of Islam, there are many fatwas that were given and rejected. Because we are dealing with human beings who are trying to understand what does Allah say. And sometimes there were certain blind spots that you had, and now when they come in the form, you reject. The Prophet ﷺ said, every son of Adam is a sinner, but the best one among them is the one who repents after. So when you recognize the mistake, you retract the mistake, because you know only Allah is perfect. And this is the end of the fatwa. Inshallah, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless everyone who participated here. There were also many other individuals who not necessarily will be termed as what you call alim in a sense. And sometimes also the term alim. Me, I don't consider myself alim, but if someone says alim, la hawla wa la quwwata illa billah. But inshallah, that have played a role in achieving this. Ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to continue to guide the Muslim community in the whole country, and hopefully this step that has been taken will spill out and be expounded to many expand it to many other areas and regions in which the guidance of Allah is needed. Subhanallah wa bihamdihi, subhanakallah wa bihamdika, wa nashhadu an la ilaha illa anta astaghfiruka wa natubu ilayk.
Iskati Samonika Biscuit is paying. Samonika Martin's Biscuit Afternoon. Brothers, I want to make it clear to those that send me messages as well to ask me to perform those because against the mind, brothers. I want to make it very clear to those that send me messages. But studying after Isha, I am Biscuit. I said, when you value, do it somewhere else. As for me, under Milanzi, si cancelling Nika Yama Biscuit. This one thing is affected about the banking as and this is one of them, inshallah. So we hope this document, this fatwa, is a Caesar, which is lamenting for the public, as was on Kat, inshallah. So, as time is adding so, inshallah, senior Muslim, now is electorally better than for the Muslim witness, who they make a novel. And then came after inshallah, is split. Because otherwise, you will be responsible for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. In journalism. Before we discuss as for the because we can we celebrate this huge milestone that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made and the Tinas Nabato must celebrate Siatura. Utura is one of the symbols of the Masam Chatura, he says, don't be the teller over to the certain apartment. As part of the and then we carry on, inshallah. So,
Normally I've been many salams given, but it's only fair that I also give my salam because I'm speaking for the first time now. So assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. So just 2 minutes here and before we ask questions. I think it is very important. I think today actually signifies the fact that we should also bear in mind now that we are a community as well. The term that I normally use in saying township Muslims are a community as well. We have doctors, we have lawyers, we have ulamas as well. So it is only fair for yourself as a Muslim that lives a gas, a luxury, then to go to the people that are responsible for your issues in luxury. In this case, I'm speaking about go to your own doctors, go to your own lawyers, go to your own ulama, and ask questions that are related to issues that are affecting you. Because, and I'm saying it's important for you because I know, I mean, coming from, Ulama Mashuyukh has really indicated this thing comes a long way. One of the reasons why we are here it is because of many other wrong fatwas that were given by people who do not understand the culture you know, and who also don't have an interest. Some of them don't have an interest. And you have a situation at a time. You can't just go back and say it's haram and sit back at home, you know. You have a situation that requires attention. So you end up, your life end up being messed up because you went to wrong people. You understand? So now, to make things easy for yourself, don't go to wrong people. Go to people that understand the situation you have and understand what is required to actually address the situation. So the first among the frequently asked questions is the fatwa binding? So that is the first question. The answer is no. This fatwa is mainly a guideline for families and or communities where Lobola is a crucial part of their cultural practice and lived reality. And then the second question is, does the fatwa apply to Muslim families? So the answer to the question is, the fatwa is for Muslim to non-Muslim interaction. Therefore, it does not address this question. Muslims can speak to ulama in their communities or send a query to nativefiqh@gmail.com for a detailed ruling relating to their specific situation. I think Sheikh Milanzi and Sheikh AQ earlier on highlighted a little bit about the background from Fatwa and the Prophet in detail. Right? So there is also another point to bear in mind, which if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala or the Prophet, the precedence of the Prophet is that there are certain rulings that are within, they are in-house. The Salat is an in-house thing. You cannot find it elsewhere. It's only in-house. It's an Islamic thing. But when you interact with non-Muslims, that's where you come across a situation of managing and assist to Allah. And the Prophet ﷺ had a precedence in dealing with these issues, and which is one of the things that were considered when this matter was crafted. But what is some of the cultural practices, they are haram. Like unnegotiable, there's no point of negotiating around them. We know that there's no negotiation, right? And then as they are not haram. I'm going to say they are halal, but they are not haram also. Isn't it? Others will say they are mandub or mustahab, mubah, yes, they are mubah, you know. So you take them, they are within the culture, but also at the same time as a Muslim you are permitted to practice it because there's nothing harmful about them. And then other things within culture also you find which actually they are Islamic. You find in the Zulu, Sutu culture, etc. There are Islamic practices within these cultures. You see, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent the Prophet as to complete the perfection, to perfect the culture of people, the mannerisms of people. Meaning in each and every culture there is something good in it. It's not that a culture is bad entirely, from A to Z is garbage. No, there are certain things which are good, and from an Islamic perspective, you see, actually this is an Islamic practice. For instance, we know the notion or the philosophy of undu habani. You cannot say that is haram or that is actually an Islamic thing, you know. So in this case, where we find ourselves, so this fatwa in particular is dealing with issues that are related to non-Muslim interactions. Meaning, in short, it's not a Muslim-to-Muslim thing. So a Muslim this fatwa does not encourage that. It does not say, as a Muslim, you can demand the Lobola for my fellow Muslim. It does not say that. This fatwa says, when you find yourself in a situation because of an interaction of non-Muslims, where you find yourself in a position where you keep the Lobola. That's what the fatwa is trying to facilitate for. So I think that's a very important point. Yeah. And then the third one, what does the fatwa say about ceremonies that generally accompany the Lobola, umbeso, and amatabiso? So that's the question. And then the answer to the question is, the fatwa only addresses the payment of Lobola. It does not apply to ceremonies that usually go hand in hand with the payment of Lobola. However, a general rule is that if such ceremonies involve any practices that may be construed as a form of venerating or ancestral worship. Such practices are haram. That question will be addressed in later Fatwa, and please send a detailed query to nativefiqh@gmail.com. It's also very important. Fatwa, they deal with specific situations at specific times. I think the shuyukh have said this several times, which probably number with Kati, there might be a need of revisiting this fatwa. Right? So it's not one size fits all. It should be understood which is a specific issue that is a specific fatwa for a specific issue. It's not the one size fits all. I want to imagine the fatwa like Lobola, it's addressed to a specific issue that has to do with Muslim interacting with non-Muslims, and then those Muslims finding themselves in which they have to keep discharge in Lobola. And then the fourth question is, other scholars say it is haram to pay lobola. That's a question. And then the answer to the question is, difference of opinion is part and parcel of Islamic jurisprudence. The opinions of other scholars must be respected. This fatwa is for those whose non-payment may have disastrous consequences for their marriage and family. Very, very important once again. You see, yeah, the fatwa came from a very specific background, in which they are Muslim brothers and sisters who are in a very difficult position, and their lives are in a mess because of the situation of Yamaloa. So it should be also taken in that manner. It should be considered in that light. It's not a one size fits all once again. And then the question number 5: does not paying lobola invalidate my nikah? Your nikah is valid. The answer is your nikah is valid for as long as it meets the requirements of a valid nikah. Payment or non-payment does not affect its validity. So the payment of lobola or non-payment of lobola does not affect its validity. I think Michelle Milan's also indicated which these are two different setups of systems, right? Nikah is separate, lobola is separate. So nikah is independent, and its independence means which in a matter if you have done nikah before lobola, then your nikah is complete. We don't say, we know whatever it is left out from inside the other family. But Islamically speaking, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we are covered. Right? We just have to cover now the rights of humanity, meaning the family of the spouse. And then the 6th question is, my family insists that my children do not belong to my husband and they should lose my family name because he did not pay lobola. So that's a question. And the answer to the question is, if the children were born in valid nikah, they should bear the surname of the father. That is one of the reasons the fatwa encourages the payment of lobola, to protect the rights of parties involved and avoid problems at a later stage. Question number 7: what happens when a husband either refuses to pay it or can't pay lobola? That's question number 7. The answer to the question is, when Fatwa recommends the payment of lobola, it does not make it mandatory or compulsory condition. I think that also has been complicated in different ways. And then the 8th question, question number 8. My husband approached my family for my hand in marriage and promised to pay lobola later, and now says he does not want to pay or return back to my parents. I think we know this. Promise no, because you needed a very time and then you committed yourself. I'm going to pay lobola. No, don't worry. Promise everybody. And then now comes the time you need to pay lobola. So far, issues. What should be done? So this is basically a question that is sort of like posed by a female or a female spouse that asks about the situation. So the answer to the question is, a Muslim is required to be upright. He's required to be honest. He's required to keep his word. That says it all. But it's not as Saturday. If your husband promised your family, it's our view that he should keep his word. It's incorrect for you to change now. You promised. You made a promise. Don't promise. That's why be careful what you promise. Sometimes, But anyways, you promised, so please fulfill your promise. It's just only Islamic for you to do such. Do so. Question number 9. My husband is willing to pay Lobola, but what is being asked of him is too much. Can he refuse to pay? The answer to the question is, which is true.
Yeah,
it's true. I mean, Shaffiran's indicated with it. I mean, you are looking at a young family that is trying to build a couple, that is trying to build a family. And it's really, I mean, guys, I think we can only sympathize with one another in this situation. You know how it is. When you keep Lobola up and then you keep Niga, and I'm not just feeling like Lobola, it's so high. And then even the Niga, it's tough. So it's a very, very question. Let's see what the answer is to the question. Can you refuse? That's a question. The answer is, it is not the purpose of this fatwa to prescribe what people should do in individual circumstances or to overburden them with what is beyond their capacity. It is a guideline. This fatwa is a guideline and recommendation to ensure peace and harmony in families. Individuals facing challenges should consult the appropriate people in their families and ulama in their localities. So yeah, I think that's all.
The employer will request the sister to give the final remarks, inshallah, and then we'll be taking the questions, inshallah, soon after that, inshallah. Okay, we can take the questions.
My question is simple. Based on what Sheikh Abdulaziz said and what Mulana was saying now. Earlier on, Sheikh Abdulaziz said marry people with permission of their people. 1, 2, he said it's very important that we should not cut the family ties. Mulana is saying now that when we pay Lobola, it should not be a Muslim to Muslim. South African men that belong to the family that are not Muslims. In African culture and traditions, my children belong to the family, particularly to their uncle. Now, if my family forces on one Lobola to be paid, Nale Maulana, we are Muslims, but my family are not Muslims, and they are saying, we want Lobola. What do we do in that particular case when my family demands Lobola, even though I'm a Muslim? Because even my wife is a Muslim, if her family are not Muslims, and they demand Lobola, what do we do in this particular case?
We had a situation or a scenario where such a situation, or where we anticipated that such a situation may arise. However, I will quickly remind Muslims of something that we all know. That in Islam there are 5 principles. Something is either haram, meaning you stay away from it completely. The next thing would be makruh, that it is better to stay away from it. Then you have a mandub, which is it's permissible. You can go either way. You can do it or you cannot do it. It's okay. Then of course you have the halal, there's something that is permissible, and that which is recommended to do. Our situation here look more into a Muslim, non-Muslim interaction. However, if it's going to be a compromise or a ruqsa or a dispensation, if you will, for lack of easy word, for Muslims to fulfill this, to go over this pothole of this nikah, if it comes to a push that you and your Maulana, whoever is asking ahead of you, you must know that you are at liberty to do either or. If you feel for us to, let's silence my entire family and just do this, you would not be committing haram. That is the point that we're trying to get. As to whether you will, how the person that's asking the hand of your daughter will feel, that's another story. But you, as the father of Lady Aisha, and here's Muhammad asking for the hand, and your family saying, we demand a pay Lobola. So between Muslim and Muslim, we do not consider it haram. However, we would say it would be better that Muslims stick to the restrictions that are highlighted in the Sharia in order to make the nikah valid.
No, it's fine. First and foremost, I'd like to make shukr to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for having given us this opportunity. May Allah continue to bless you and keep you with us to guide us so that we are not left with no guidance. Now, I know this may not be an issue that you have considered, but maybe it's something that the native group can deliberate on, maybe give guidance on. The South African jurisprudence has evolved now that the Islamic marriage has been recognized. I'm not sure if the president has already signed the act. Now, we all know that when there's fights between couples, we throw the Sharia out of the window and anywhere there's a war. Now, there's two dispensations here. Indigenous law, which is governed by things like Lobola and all that, and you've got Islamic law that has got clear principles, especially on issues of inheritance and all that. Now, which one is going to take precedence in this if there are no agreement between the parties that yes, we did both ceremonies, but the contract that will stand the test of time should be this one. So if you haven't dealt with that, I think it's something that we're going to need guidance on, because when there's these kinds of fights between couples, people will always go for what is convenient at the time. And that in itself creates a lot of problems amongst Muslims. Some of us, we get married because we are here, we go and sign in terms of the civil law, for instance. Later on, you want to get married to a second wife. In terms of South African law, you can't. Now, you would say that, no, I married in terms of Allah's law, but in South Africa, it's not good to way. So those are the kinds of things that as Muslims, we need to be very careful about. But the issue of the two dispensations, because of this is about issue of Lobola and nikah. I think we need to have guidance in terms of how we should. Obviously, nikah should be what governs us. But in the absence of any agreement, a person can go to court and take you on in terms of the indigenous law, and it creates a lot of problems, especially for the children and so forth. Thanks.
Shukran to that very big bomb. Despite us not having looked at it, but it's already been recorded. It's something that we also look at. But I do want to highlight because the body of Sharia is very vast, and there's a lot of the science of the usul, which is the science that is behind deriving Islamic law, has got certain principles. And the usuliyin, the people of usul at our time now, especially in the last 200 years or so, maybe even beyond that, especially when the Khilafat, we're talking about ISIS, when the original Khilafat, the Ottoman, they fell. And then also the colonization came, and then many countries then were bounded by Muslims found themselves in minorities in many other areas, and the system that used to be there, it was based by the affected the way law was passed in communities and in societies. So some ulama like Abdul Wahab al-Khalaf, he wrote in a book, al-Usul al-Ilm fi Usul al-Fiqh, that the laws of the country is one of the principles that needs to be considered. I know that there is a ikhtilaf or debate or difference of opinion on that, if it's done, how it is done, and to what extent, and what will be the conditions. But that is a topic of discussion, and your question will certainly be noted and will be looked at in light of it. I know that many people believe that the Islamic contract, because when you get married in this country, you have certain types of contract, which is the antinatural, with accrual, antinatural, without accrual, in community or property. What does Islam say about this? When a spouse dies and is married in community or property, how much of estate should be distributed from the spouse's estate that has left this world, because they can only distribute 50% of it because of the contract. So some ulama would say, because a nikah, aqdul nikah is a contract, but it can also have conditions, you can also add other things to it. A famous example is when you look at the nikah contract that I think the great-grandfather of Rasulullah, when he got married in Yathrib, and Abdul Muttalib, what you call the grandfather of Rasulullah, when Abdullah was born, the father of Rasulullah, there was this thing that where he needed to be known among the people in the Quraysh, but the contract was that he must only stay in Medina, in Yathrib. This is where the Greek grandparents of Rasulullah used to be. So the issue of the contract came in there, but the reason was not in Makkah, so that when the time for leadership comes, this was pre-Islam. I'm just adding history to this, just to specify certain points. So the issue of contract plays a role, and the issue of conditions to the contract also plays a role. So that is something that we will look at, but I'm not saying that this is how it will be done. So until we sit down and we look at the question, inshallah.
Assalamu alaikum. And I quote, Assalamu alaikum. Will the Muslim Judicial Council, in bracket MJC, be issuing this fatwa? Question mark, from Rachel Muhammad at Voice of the Cape radio station in Cape Town. Full stop.
Mina ngoba umuntu othanda ukuzifaka in issues of amawula and those issues as is affecting its communities. I once attended a meeting of the Oxfam. Just after Maulana Abdul Khalid Ali was announced as the president of the Oxfam, the new president of the Oxfam. And they then touched as the MJC on the issue indigenous fiqh, or the matters that has to do with our practices that involves culture and heritage. And I then answered, because we were already busy with this issue of Lobola. And I said, no, Bafundisi, because why of this issue? We are busy with the issue itself. And to their surprise, they never thought that we have advanced to that level
as the indigenous ulama. What says we are already on par, or rather maybe we are advanced already discussing some of these issues. So Brother Abdul Khalik Ali then commented and said, we are very happy to hear that. We would love, if that fatwa is finished, that you also make us part of it. We want to see, we want to be part of this development. So definitely, I think that there is a room for involving such influential bodies within the Islamic house in South Africa, so that they may see it and use it where it will be impactful, as well as maybe add, as the room was created, as our Sheikh Milanzi has indicated to say, the room is actually open for addition and submission. So I think from that perspective, we will be very happy to engage with some of the ulama who are serving in these institutions. Sure.
There's a question there. There's a question from the ladies. Yeah, inside.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Nna ke tla bua ka Setswana. Like ne ke batla go itse gore like go na le di-Muslim brothers and Muslim sisters tse dingwe ba ba rata go bana le gift ya madlozi, understand dilo tse yalo. So go kry-e gore ba bangwe ba tsamaye ba lo tshwasa and then ha ba boa ke masangoma. So like go kry-e gore mana-Muslim ba kgona go ya ko bone. And those Muslim sisters and brothers, ba kgona go ba bolelela gore bothata ba gago ke bo so le bo so. So like ne ke batla go itse gore ntho eo e dumeletse mo Islam, like ha re itse go na le like ha o na le bothata bo ba madlozi ba mo ma-Muslim ha o itse gore o ye kae ke mo tlo go thusang ka dilo tseo o dilo tseo tsa bo porofeta tseo. So ke yona ntho e ke batla.
Shukran. It might can I do this one first? It might sound very dismissive that we have not really engaged, even though it's on the table. We know it's a very burning issue in the community, and it is, if I'm not mistaken, the next topic that is on the agenda of the ulama, because it's happening. A lot of people are really suffering from what you have mentioned. At the moment, we have not said as a body, and what we are trying to do moving forward is not to have an Abdul Qadir opinion. I have my view on it. Sheikh Milazi has his view on it. So many other ulama here, but we want to sit down and craft a document that will be a working and a live document for the community to have a similar direction. Yes, we understand. We are trying to fast track it as quick as possible. As soon as we're back in the office, we will be attending to that question. We understand our people, but there's a lot of issues that people are going through, and spiritual issues, financial issues, and you know, it's like a dark cloud that we find ourselves in. And as Brother Tahir highlighted, you know, people will always opt for the easy way out. And sometimes they don't talk about that's it, problems. But we are really looking into such questions. Unfortunately, this platform was only for the Lobola, but I'm not saying that to be dismissive. I'm also telling you that this is an issue that we are attending to next, if not the third issue that we are following up on. Thank you.
Before you ask Abba, I think before the ulama give a way forward, Fundis Milanzi, until Maulama Azahlala asnike mhlahlandlela kule nkolo. I think Fundis Nomkhulu Milanzi we are specialized in Latino Tete Pop. No, it's serious. So if you can be contacted by where you go, inshallah, I think we have good assistance.
The next question can be
Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. For the question, I think just comment and take the offer Umar has put, inshallah. The question around ancestors and all that, it's a burning issue that as alimas actually we are confronted with it as, I cannot even explain it this morning, to an extent that alhamdulillah on the 20, I think it's the 21st of this month, we will be meeting up just to talk amongst the ladies because it's getting out of hand. So we will get in touch with Native D to assist us how to handle it and deal with it for that day, not the fatwa, just to bring peace and calmness and things like that. So, but we will be in touch with regards to that. And as a request also from us, more animals, please attend to it ASAP. Because we have animals and Muslims who have been Muslims for many years, about twice already. So the information is, and so they, when the awam see such things are happening and we are dragging our feet, no matter how many things we have, this is the iman, this is the aqidah of the people. It's a high request. We will be meeting with a few more animals, but I'll get back to native fiqh of what we've discussed and what assistance do we need. But for us, we are already meeting somewhere on the 21st. So please, we have people who are already becoming amatwasa, who are leaders of the communities, and people are thinking this is part of it. It's not a joke, it's very bad. Coming to today's topic, I don't know, I arrived late, I'm not sure if it was addressed. I have a question to, I'm not sure if it was emphasized in the fatwa. We have a hadith of Nabi Karim saying, I can continue, I think. 3 things must not be delayed. A burial, a spouse found, I forgot what's the third one, it's not. So, but the point is on the part when a spouse is found, the nikah should not be delayed. So what happens in the case where the families are insisting, we know some parliament letter, negotiations, has the emphasis been put to the Muslim Ummah that no matter what happens, the delay of nikah should not be pushed back because of the negotiations of Lobola, because zina can come into that, so many things can come into that, and we know many negotiations of Lobola take very long, and can we accommodate that as a Muslim Ummah, although we are saying Lobola is part of it, because nikah, we know it cannot be delayed. I think, but negotiations, but to what point where we discuss, they understand that nikah is first and the rest is after.
Yes, and again, I don't know why our Sheikh is busy throwing this microphone my way, but again, apologies, and we really appreciate that you made it even though you were late, but that point was highlighted in both the fatwa itself, that we are not promoting any delays, and we will not, our session or our fatwa does not say that we need to delay nikah because of Lobola negotiations. The Sharia will always supersede and will be above all. However, what we are saying is there needs to be a balance that we strike in trying to balance the two. However, the laws of Sharia are known to all of us, and that is what makes or that unites a couple. Everything else can follow later. I mean, we've had situations in our communities where we approach the family and we inform them of what Islam dictates, and everything else. We are not saying we will not do it, but can you just allow us to carry on with the procedures of Isultueni, then we can come back and do other formalities. But we always encourage, as I said, we are not people to shy away or to go against the hadith of the Prophet at all. Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. It's very clear we are sticking to those grounds and we want that to happen also. One more thing I like to say is topics like this, they say if you want to entertain Muslims till sunset and sunrise, talk about nikah, Lobola, the jinn, and all those things. I want to say we are not really pressed with time also, inshallah. So more questions can be sent. Maybe one more, two more will be entertained, inshallah. But more questions can be sent to the email address that will be provided. And what will happen? And the WhatsApp number that is provided. And what will happen also, we will try to make the document available to everyone by the end of this weekend, inshallah. Before this weekend ends, if possible, you will get it by tonight. Failure of which it will be available for anyone who needs it. We will make means that the document is viral and it's out there for everyone to peruse. And if there's any other questions arising from that, can be entertained. Yes, I think, but before the question comes, Sheikh Milaz wanted to say something.
Based on what Sheikh has just said now, I just wanted to also add that although the existence of the hadith is there, that Abba just mentioned, there's also other hadith that needs to be taken into account where the Prophet said, لا طاعة للمخلوق في معصية الخالق. There is no obedience to the creation if it means disobeying the Creator. And there's also other hadith where the Prophet said encourage women to get married, but then he said if they can't get married, they must fast. Although it might sound a bit harsh, but there is hikmah and also wisdom in that, and that's why every ruling that is there is a specific reason why what you call is there. Maybe somebody wants to get married, but maybe they won't even be able to make it to support the family. And so some form of proof needs to be shown beforehand that you are able to stand up, to the matter at hand. But we're not saying that you should stay forever and not getting married because you can't pay the loan. But we need to balance out these advices of the Prophet. Don't go and use what you call in other words, you can't in some circumstances, as the Fatwa says in the end, that specific cases can be dealt with on an individual case-by-case basis, where anyway could be given by the alim that is looking at the matter at hand, where maybe, I know in some areas they will say, okay, well, when we get married, you will be known as married in the court of Allah to avoid zina, while we still struggling with the issue at hand, unfortunately. But also we don't want to encourage the issue of the nikahs that are unannounced, what we call them, So people look at married and they don't announce that they're married. So it causes a fitna in the community. That is, in fact, fatwa is needed on it.
I need to follow up on this, just look at what Mufundis Milanze has said. You see, most of the time, the scenario where a person is insisting to shata, and then you hear this comment, you know what, I've tried, and most of the time when brothers are and then fixing will react to that particular girl. And once he fixes his mind on that girl, no, we're going to keep him alone. Then he says, no, but the guy, everything they pulls, then he say, you know what, Sheikh, I tried to get married and this and then Allah isn't created one woman. Like, if not a brotherly, the title of your story, meaning child,
Brother Lila is very close to me, I don't care. You charge. I'm going to charge your son seriously. But then if you find there is a challenge here, go out somewhere else. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is going to open the doors. Why you this one, they must not know. You try the Indian area, you try here. I know you go to this one. I know my Indian friends will tell you, you know what? I checked about 90 girls, boss. 91 was there like when there was a spark. You fix yourself. That's the way the problem comes in. Exactly. I need to acknowledge Bob's story to corner dynasty, please. And there was a question here that is there permissibility of Lobola having something to do with price being too much or not, with no force and asked to pay 10 rand Lobola, can I? The Lobola has nothing to do with the price. It can be whatever price based on the negotiations and the agreement that happens between the two families. Mabafuna 10 rand, bismillah, if they don't want to 10 billion, you can go to Palapala farm and get it.
I thought there is a question that was not answered. Shukran to the sister, our esteemed sister that always asks relevant questions. The question is about the underground again. Amandos. What is that? We are very grateful. I have a team of ulama here which I have full confidence in. And rightfully so, they are fully equipped. And it happens that the question that was asked about the sister of Lobola, it's exactly our next topic. This is what taking. You know? But we want to make sure this is what we are trying to do. The issue of Lobola is taking the right. So it's a very, very sensitive issue that has been hanging for long. But we look at it properly and we do our proper research and study around the issue itself. So sister, watch the space, the next topic, Amarus.
In case you're not very specific.
Last question from the floor.
Okay. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Jazakallah for getting this opportunity. I would also like to say alhamdulillah, may Allah grant barakah to this initiative and give more guidance, inshallah. I heard through the explanation with the Fatwa when they were explaining that yes, Lobola, but the ceremonies around it, it's not maybe the discussion or part. There's somewhere I didn't understand. But I mean, I will ask the question because the background here, I mean, the Bebeles are too much in these things. In a scenario whereby I still remember if unga si genisi, like my parents won't come to my house, they won't visit. My husband has to slaughter some animals for them to come and be permitted to come to our house. As well as myself and myself, I'm not supposed to welcome his parents until also I slaughter some animals for their father and mother to come in, which is, I did such ceremonies, but I just want to understand way forward how to do such, because I don't think there's a woman who can be happy not to see her parents coming into the house, or either the group, not the family visiting the house. Jazakallah.
Stop But that question, yes, you did hear us not entertaining much, because then so izingefana nalezo zizokufuna ukuthi wena Ulitele or native fiqh email, because those are situations which are very specific. And hence we said we are not dismissing such cases, but we understand that if we want to entertain all of them in a document, it will be very big encyclopedic document. So your particular situation will be entertained. Siyazazi into zamaNdebele ukuthi zikhamba njani, so sizokhona ukuthi sihelele izinto maziqala zibabhizinyana. Okay, so we have one more which I will just read, and it was answered partly by the question that was posed by Siritahe, where Abu Hanifa Salman Sushubi says, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah jazakallah khairan for the program and the fatwa. However, what I would like to know is whether the ulama know or understand that in terms of recognition of the Customary Marriage Act of 1998, when Lobola is negotiated, agreed and paid or deferred and just celebrated, that is a valid marriage in community or property. Yes, we are aware of such nuances. We did not want to dwell too much into them until the marriage bill that has just been passed is settled, and we can tackle that from an Islamic point of view versus the law of the country as established. So at the moment it's not being looked at, but we are aware of such intricacies. Shukran. I think there's one more, and this is the final one.
Come to one more. Hopefully one last one.
For us to listen to his melodious choice.
It's coming from Karabo K. Madiba. The question is, why is not binding? Question mark. Then Rivet sisters need this to be binding because their marriage without Lobola are nullified by their families, leaving them violent without the protection of their families, making much harder to enjoy. Full stop. Rivet sisters need this to be binding because their marriages without Lobola are nullified by their families, leaving them burdened and without the protection of their families, making much harder to enjoy. Full stop.
Definitely. The fatwa did highlight the concern, which is part of the reason why the fatwa of the ulama came together, is because such situations where sisters find themselves when they're around, then the family says, this is why we are promoting, or what we are endorsing, or we are encouraging, maybe rather, that the Lobola should be paid. However, to answer her first question, why is it not binding? Only the laws of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, are binding. Everything else is just our attempt as human to try to make a society to be a functional society.
I think the sister also must understand the reason why many times the fatwa was not taken, the Lobola issue was not taken into consideration is that there was no clear guidelines from the ulama. So there was that one only dominant view that it is haram, it's not allowed, it's bid'ah, it's an innovation and everything, etc. So if the sister is engaged with someone who is a Muslim, and then that person is going to be told and advised that there is a clear guidelines and a fatwa that gives the responsibility towards what my family is asking you to do. So it leaves you with no option but to consider it highly to do it, because if you are not going to do it, why are you not doing it? Because it is permissible, and here the ulama have given you guidance to say you can do it. So why are you not doing it? So somehow it is also binding you to do it if the family is asking you to do it, because it is permissible.
No, I was told it. No, basically, so you
Jamaat will be 5 o'clock, inshallah, Zan will be good at inshallah. Lunch will be served immediately after Maghrib, inshallah. Zakum.
La ilaha illallah, 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 la ilaha Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Brothers, let me take this opportunity to thank each and everyone who has come out here today. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless all of you. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant you jazai khair. A special thank and gratitude to our Mufti, Sheikh Muhammad Ilaz Hafidhahullah wa Ra'ah, Sheikh Amir al-Khatib Spiritual Council, Sheikh Amir Muhammad Khadimah is here with us today, Sheikh Muhammad, Sheikh Tahir, and everyone here, Tati Khalifa, and everyone. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reward all of you. We say to you, Jazakumullahu khairan. Today is a day of celebration. Allah says, قُلْ بِفَضْلِ اللَّهِ وَبِرَحْمَتِهِ فَبِذَلِكَ فَلْيَفْرَحُوا هُوَ خَيْرٌ مِمَّا يَجْمَعُونَ. And Allah has against it is fun and days where Allah's virtue, Allah's bounties are coming down and encompassing us. Allah says, and we must show a lot of excitement and joy. So today it is a day of joy and celebration. May Allah reward all the ulama who have come out here today. May Allah reward the sisters and everyone who has participated, contributed towards the success of this program. We say to each and everyone, Jazakumullahu khairan. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Allahumma salli ala Sayyidina Muhammadin al-Fatih. لما أغلق والخاتم لما سبق ناصر الحق بالحق والهادي إلى صراطك المستقيم وعلى آله حق قدره ومقداره العظيم. ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار. اللهم ارزقنا حسن الخاتم، اللهم ارزقنا حسن الخاتم، اللهم ارزقنا حسن الخاتم، اللهم ارزقنا الإخلاص، اللهم ارزقنا الإخلاص والقبول يا رب العالمين. اللهم ربنا ظلمنا أنفسنا وإن لم تغفر لنا وترحمنا لنكونن من الخاسرين. اللهم آت نفوسنا تقواها وزكيها أنت خير من زكاها أنت وليها ومولاها. سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون وسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين.
Ukisikia sake sema ndo inapata please inshallah. Hapo maana tena baelekezo inshallah. Assalamu alaikum.